Hello. Hi, everybody. This is Annalisa with Journey to the Goddess TV, where I regenerate ancient feminine wisdom with modern women. You know, and I always forget to say the PhD part now that I'm a doctor. So this is Dr. Annalisa. um, hello. Hi. Today I am with my lovely guest, Rajashree Maa. And let me give a little intro before we dive into things. And we've already said hello, but why don't you introduce yourself to the audience? Say hello.
Hello, everyone, and hello, Annalisa. I'm just honored and privileged to be here and delighted to share whatever I can with you all.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you. Okay, so Rajashree Maa, her natal name is JONI DITTRICH, PhD, otherwise known as Rajashree Maa. And she is a master of 4 Reiki lineages, wow, and a venerated interspiritual teacher of meditation, yoga wisdom, and holistic wellness. For many years of practice as a psychologist and healer, she sees true healing as a gateway to spiritual wisening and awareness of the limitless love at the heart of being. She is the founder of the Wisdom School based in Napa, California, which is dedicated to offering online and in-person healing sessions and training in Kali-Ki Reiki and supportive practices. There is a website here that we'll be leaving in the YouTube text box as well. So again, welcome. And just so that we can make sure that everybody has an opportunity to buy your book, why don't we show it to the audience and maybe you can let them know where they can purchase it.
Sure. Thank you, Annalisa. So it's called May the Loveforce Be With You, with a long subtitle, Kali-Ki Reiki, Healing Through Divine Mother and Yogic Wisdom. So all you have to do is search May the Love Force Be With You. And it's under the JONI DITTRICH PhD that you're going to find it. So it's on Amazon. It's both paperback and Kindle. It actually will become an audiobook, but not until the end of the year. And you can get it Barnes & Noble online as well, and through the publishing house sacredstories.com.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so before we dive into the inside of the book and all things Divine Feminine and your work, I just want to remind everybody to hit like, to subscribe to the channel, to leave a comment, and share this video. Share it wide and far. Okay, so Rajashree, I would love it if we could start with your story, how you came to experience the revelation of this divine feminine lineage of Reiki and how all of your life threads wove together.
Yeah. Well, it can be a very long story, so if I go on too much, please stop me. But I'd actually like to start when I was 3 years old. I woke up in the middle of the night and I went out into the hallway in my house to go to the bathroom, and I saw this symbol. It kind of looked like a great big letter A, all in light. And it was just the most interesting thing. I never forgot it. And maybe I was 4 or 5. I already read. I recognized this looking like a capital A, but I never forgot that. I remembered it as a dream, and but it was just always there in the background. And so it was so interesting when much, much later in life, suddenly I was being given symbols that were symbols of light. So, you just never know how the threads of life are going to weave for you. But I spent, many years as a practicing psychotherapist, a clinical psychologist, and I had a family, I had kids, I had a husband, I was busy doing lots of work, but I always had this mystical bent. I always practiced meditation. I always did yoga. And then I just felt this need to learn a different kind of healing. When I was a kid again, I remember I was raised in the Episcopal Church, and I remember asking the minister, or maybe it was my confirmation teacher, so I'm reading the Bible, and what I see in the Bible is mostly what Jesus does is heal. He does that more even than he talks to people. And I said, can we do that? This was a long time ago. This was the early 60s. And this male minister said to me, oh, patted me on the head. Oh, Joni, that's so sweet. But, we have modern medicine now, so we don't need to do what Jesus did. And I had a number of experiences like that. It's like, okay, I'm just going to do evidence-based psychology. I'm going to take the straight and narrow road. But along the way, I just knew there was more.
Yes.
And so I did begin to learn Reiki, probably almost 30 years ago now. But I kind of kept it secret because, as a psychotherapist, you don't touch people, right?
Yes.
And for me, Reiki was a lot about that healing touch. So I kind of did that just with friends and family, and always felt like my clients could so benefit from it. But I refrained as best I could until I couldn't really any longer. And it was around that time then that I not just learned Reiki, but I became a Reiki master with a wonderful teacher who it was a year-long apprenticeship. And just at that same time, I had been actually practicing yoga and meditation for a long time. At that same time, I had started a very intense course of study in meditation and tantric yogic texts. And it was that, I think, that coalescence of becoming a Reiki master after that long training and beginning this deep, deep course of meditation that suddenly, things just started to explode, and I would get these various visions, and eventually these symbols were revealed to me. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, there's a few things that came up for me while you were speaking, and I think most strongly is the healing touch that you talked about, healing through touch, healing through shared embodiment almost. And what a deficit of that we have in this culture in particular, right?
Yes.
And people, I think, are really longing for that, especially coming through the other side of the pandemic. If we're through it, I'm not sure. And so what a gift, right? What a gift to be able to, and my experience of Reiki, which I did years ago, I haven't experienced it in a long time, was that it's a very gentle touch. It's so,
yes, it's very gentle. Excuse me. There's no pressure, right? Which is actually, it's wonderful for people that, elderly people that can't take the pressure even of massage. But it's not just that. It's a very gentle touch, and we're basically touching the areas of the body that correspond with our chakras, because it truly is energetic healing. So when I place my hands on you, and we can do it at distance as well, thank goodness. When I send this energy to you, right, I'm not sending you my energy, and that's the beauty of it, right? So you're not going to take on my samskaras, my stuff, right? I'm not dumping into you, so to speak, but because of the Reiki, because of the methods that we use and the symbols that we use, this energy that I call the Loveforce energy of Divine Mother comes channeled through us. And then when it reaches you, whether that's through physical touch, whether that's, in the aura, whether that's at distance, what it does is it activates that energy that is already in you. And it just invites your own energy to come into a kind of new balance, a new harmony that is optimal for you, whatever your current circumstances are, whether there's a physical disease, whether there's an emotional thing, whether you're just tired or what have you. So back to your question though about touch. It's so wonderful to have that healing touch because it goes through all the layers of the system, not just the layers of the body, but the system, the physical, the emotional, the mental, what we call the psychic level and the soul level. And it's at that soul, it's from that soul level And the soul, of course, is never harmed, never diseased, and never changing. And that soul level then gets activated in you, and that's what brings healing to all the rest of it.
Right.
And as much as touch, I totally agree with you, is essential in our culture, and this fear of touch that we have is really detrimental to our hearts, to our souls, and to our sense of being one humanity, being one family. As harmful as that is, the beauty is that Reiki actually can be transmitted at distance, over Zoom, that kind of thing. And it works just as effectively, actually, at healing all those levels of the system, including the physical.
Yeah. Right.
So it feels almost miraculous. It feels wonderful. And yet it's as natural as breathing.
Right. And something else you said, I, I actually think, well, I had heard other people suggest this, so this is now what I think as well, that that's the kind of healing that Jesus was actually doing, was a healing, like channeling the energy of the universe and helping a person heal themselves.
Absolutely. And he wasn't even necessarily using his hands. And do you remember the story about the woman who was hemorrhaging? She was
Yes,
bleeding.
I've written about this story. Yes.
You have?
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to see that. Yeah. Well, so then you probably know it better than I. But she just touched the hem of his garment, is how the story goes.
Yes.
And he wasn't even thinking about her. He didn't necessarily see her, but he said, "Who did this?" Because he felt the energy flowing through him and out to her.
Yes, yes, exactly. It's such a powerful, it's a very beautiful explanatory story or illustrative story of this kind of mutual healing
Yeah,
channel, I guess.
exactly.
Um, so I also think it's really important, or I'm really curious to know, why do you think that this feminine lineage has come through now at this time in history?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that question, Annalisa, because I feel like it's extremely important and it's urgent. We all know we're at a precipice, we're at a crossroads. We know the destruction that's happening in our planet, really at human hands in terms of, we're experiencing an atmospheric river here now with lots of flooding where I am here in Northern California. Um, it's like she's speaking to us. And and I say this in my book. It's like she's given us lots of warning, and
Yeah,
she's basically saying the grace period is up, friends, and you need to recognize not just her as a goddess. It's not to worship, but to recognize that really that divinity within all of us, and to begin to truly treat everything, everyone, as as sacred.
right,
And she's basically saying, look, I'm giving you all these messages. I'm giving you earthquakes. I'm giving you storms and all of this. And you're continuing to create war. And
right.
this has to change. And this can only come through the voice of the divine feminine, I
Right.
believe, at this time.
I agree. I agree, because she is what we've largely suppressed and forgotten. Not everybody on the planet, but many of us. And it's like this, I am mystified that, like, since I would say since the 17th century, especially, we've been in this weird intellectual trap in our heads that we are not our bodies. And it's like, we are of her body. We are made of her body. And when we die, our bodies go back to her. And so it seems obvious to me that what we do to her will happen to us.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, we are literally of her body. We're literally of the stars. She is of the stars, right? And there is not a chemical in our body that is not found within the earth and her atmosphere.
Right.
It's and yes, we need to recognize that in a way that many of the ancient people, knew, but now science is actually verifying this.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, science is coming around, Western science.
Yeah, finally, huh? Yeah.
Because I feel like Chinese medicine and ancient Indian Ayurveda, like they held strong to that to this
Exactly.
day. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I know we could just keep going down weaving this thread. Thread is a purposeful image that I'm using, and you'll see in a minute why. So let's keep going with the divine feminine a little bit, since that's the major reason for being here today. So what role did the divine feminine play in your life prior to this revelation?
Yeah, okay. Well, I knew you were going to ask that question, and so I've given it some thought, and you know, there was there was some mystical role a little bit prior to the revelations, but not a lot. And the way that the divine feminine played in for me, I was recognizing and reflecting on this, was almost more in an intellectual kind of social political kind of way, right? So, like, I was very careful to talk about God, not just as father, but as mother, and that was coming out of a feminism. And because I'd been a student of yoga I'd been a yogi for many years, I was very familiar with the goddesses of the Hindu triad of Saraswati and Kali and Lakshmi. But I didn't really feel them in my heart. Who I felt in my heart prior to these awakenings, these revelations from Kali, and then subsequently, was I connected with Mary Magdalene and in the recent studies on her, and then eventually did a tour in Europe, a pilgrimage, I would say, where I connected with the Black Madonna and with Mary Magdalene as well. So it was more that for me. I'm realizing, so it was a very important piece of what I felt and believed in and felt the world needed, but it wasn't like seared into my heart the way it became when she suddenly started speaking to me. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. And so from there, when she started speaking to you, I think, okay, so my feeling about Kali and the way that she's presented in this culture is she's feared by a lot of women because she does have this fearsomeness to her, but the totality of what is so much greater than that. So I'm wondering if you can kind of pull that out a little bit for us. Give us a fuller picture of Kali, and maybe also your experience of her as she's
Yeah.
healed herself.
But in the text that I was studying in tantric yoga, she really was less of a personification and more of a force, and she was the force of change. So it's like you have in Hinduism, you have the universal, the divine, the absolute, the Brahman. And the Brahman is changeless. The Brahman has no characteristics. The Brahman just is. Now, I've changed in for Kali-Ki Reiki. I call that limitless love, because to me, love is that which just is. It's the substrate of everything. And we can go into that a little bit, because I'm not talking about personal or relational love. But out of that, there's an arising for the manifestation and the creation. And that is the energy of Kali. So although, in the West, and a lot also in India, she still has this reputation of the goddess of death. Right. She's really the goddess of transformation.
Right, right.
And so she's the goddess both of creation and dissolution. And so Mahakali, the great Kali, she is the divine mother. She can be called Kali, she can be called by any name of the goddess, because the divine mother is that out of which everything arises and that into which everything again dissolves. She is the womb, the cosmic womb.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so many things arose out of that conversation, and I'm having a personally an interesting moment with that because of what I'm working on in my book, and this. I'm not working with Kali, but I'm working actually with another goddess that I believe represents that same kind of energy from the Sumerian tradition, Ereshkigal, and also Medusa, the Gorgon figure from the Greek tradition, also has a lot of those qualities. So there's something about the profundity of that death, rebirth, dance, and transformation. That key word of transformation is actually the key. And if you can almost go through the fear itself or be with the fear, the transformation to the other side, I imagine is, I don't know. I don't even know what the word might be. Enlightenment? I don't know what the word is.
Yeah, certainly magnificent, certainly glorious. And I mean, we're experiencing little births and little deaths moment to moment all the time. And even to think about, a baby being born, coming from wherever the baby comes from, right? And, whatever it experiences as those contractions are happening, it can't be terribly comfortable. And then they come out into the light. And then, yes, our transition into death. I think, if we let go of the fear, then we can just be with it. And then we can, to me, the soul never dies, you see. So it's like we just have whatever experience there is there. I have some ideas about that, but I don't know that we'll go into that. But again, going into the light, enlightenment. And I'm sure that on the other side of this light, this whole world is going to look a little dim in comparison. So yes, and then every moment, every breath, we inhale, there's a pause, and then there's an exhalation. And the transformation is constantly happening, this change, this movement. And that's what I call, it's the energy of Shakti. That's the Hindu word. It's the power, the energy of the limitless stillness. And so in Kali-Ki Reiki, we call that the love force, the force of love, the energy of love. Not force in terms of forceful, right? Although it can be, for sure.
Yes.
You got to push to get that baby out sometimes.
Right. That's why, I've been meditating on this recently, like feminine power and Shakti, and like how it started to make sense to me why so many rivers in India, for example, are named after goddesses. Saraswati, the Mahaganga, right? Because they're very powerful, but there's a different quality of power attributed to a river. So it's very forceful, but it's also very soft.
Yes. That's so true. And when we were talking earlier about Reiki and touch, and we were talking about how it's a gentle touch, it's a gentle touch, and the experience is gentle yet powerful and sustaining. And, right, this is a river is that. So yeah, it's a beautiful feminine image, and people got it, they
Yes, exactly. So we've touched on what you call love force and limitless love. And at first, when I approached this in your text, I was like, oh, like unconditional love, of course. But then you actually addressed that. And you said that there is a difference between love force, limitless love, and unconditional love, um, which makes so much sense. I would love if you could touch on that, the
Sure,
difference
thank
between
you. Thanks. So, when we think of unconditional love, we're still thinking of the love we have for another. We're still thinking of the love we might even have for nature or beauty. That I'm not putting conditions on it. So you see, there's still a little bit of ego in that, but also a little bit of separation. Like there's the subject, me, and there's the object, that which I love. And I love that object or person without judgment is usually what we're thinking about. And no
that.
matter what they do, I will love them. And that's beautiful. And it's something that we all aspire to with the people in our lives. But limitless love is unconditioned, meaning that it is a love that is without conditions, that does not require an object or an other. So that's why I refer to it as like the substrate of
Mhm.
all that is. So it is to me equivalent to what the Hindus talk about as Brahman, or what could be called the absolute or God. But, even when we talk about God in the Western perspective, sometimes we're talking about that great universalness, and sometimes we're talking about more of a personal God. And kind of depending on our own experience. But love as limitless, as boundless, it has no direction, right? It has no intention, really. It just is.
Yeah.
It's pure beingness. And what I'm saying is that pure being is love. And that when it begin to take on movement and take on form, Shakti, right? Then that is the love force. And so there's an equivalence here again between, we could say between Shiva and Shakti, between the Brahman and Prakriti, and that kind of thing, depending on whatever tradition you're looking at. But it's like, yes, there is this expansive, vast, limitless, unknowable, actually, but all knowing beingness.
Yes.
And then out of that arises its energy to create, to manifest, and to dissolve.
So, okay. So, in that respect, what makes this particular lineage of this feminine lineage, divine feminine lineage of Reiki different than traditional Reiki, or similar or additional?
Well, okay, so traditional Reiki, I mean, it was founded by a Japanese Buddhist monk from, I can't remember the name of his tradition right now, but Mikao Usui, and he had an enlightenment experience. He was already kind of a natural healer like Jesus, and received some symbols where he was able to pass on to others how to do this kind of healing. Um, but I feel there was still a kind of duality in it. And the limitless love is completely non-dual. So that's one difference. And then there, as far as I know, there are many different Reiki traditions, right? And as far as I know, none of them are based in the divine feminine. And most of them have come through people in masculine form, and through other traditions. So, so the traditional Usui Reiki, which of course I was trained in and I love, and I still teach those symbols. But it came to Mikao Usui around 1900. So quite a long time ago. And there are four major symbols of that tradition. and they're wonderful, but we feel like the symbols of Kali-Ki Reiki um, are meant for our times, and their femininity, so to speak, allows us to see them a little bit differently. When I was taught traditional Reiki, it was like you had to draw these symbols on the paper. You had to get them exactly memorized. You had to pass a test that you had them exactly right. And as you drew them on the paper, right, you're drawing with a black pen or pencil on white paper. Well, the way we see the symbols, the way they were revealed to me, is they are light forms. So when we depict them as white or light on a black background. It's like they emerge out of the light.
Right. I love the black too, because it's like her cosmic womb. It's like they're rising out of her
Yeah,
cosmic womb.
you got it. Yeah, yeah. No, it's beautiful. And they move and they morph and they dance. And actually, there are 11 major symbols of the Kali-Ki tradition, plus a few more iterations. And you can see them kind of all swirling together so that they each are their own, and they each have their own special applications in healing. And at the same time, ultimately, there's only one symbol, just like there is only one beingness. There is just oneness.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
let's show the audience a kind of a sneak preview of maybe one or two of these symbols.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the first one, most of the symbols actually are unique forms of light, unique designs that were given to me. But the first couple, the ones that we use at the first level, will be familiar to everyone. Okay. So the first one is called Sri Vidya Trishul, which means the trident of wisdom. So, you recognize this, right?
Oh,
And
yes.
we also know what's happened to this symbol over the years. Not only is the Trishul essential in Buddhism and Hinduism, which I didn't actually even know when it was first revealed to me
Wow.
as a Kali-Ki Reiki symbol. It isn't used necessarily as healing in those traditions, but it's a symbol of power, and it's the symbol of the trinity of the gods of Shiva and in the male hierarchy, and also in the feminine hierarchy, right? So I don't want to go into too much detail. Try to avoid here.
And the word Shri is the word for goddess, correct?
And
It is.
actually, it's not just for goddess.
Okay.
So Shri also just means it's like it's an honorific, and it means something that is beautiful and emanates divine
Okay.
beauty.
Okay.
But yeah, so this really means the trident of the great wisdom, of the magnificent wisdom. Um, so simple, but also we know what happened to this symbol in Western culture, right? It showed up in Greek culture. It was Poseidon used it, and it was really symbolizing the universe. And then we have the Christian tradition with its Trinity, and then this looked heretical, right? And then it became the pitchfork, right? The pitchfork
Right.
devil. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Kind of a sign of something evil or almost domination too.
Yeah,
Domination
and
conflict.
pagan, right?
Yeah. And
But
pagan. Right.
but this isn't how we see it, and ultimately, we kind of see it like this, but all these lines are eternal. They just go up, and in Kali-Ki Reiki, the central line, we call it the soul line.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh my
and
goodness.
so then I'm just going to show you just a couple more,
Yeah, yeah.
because then so this we also call the Kundalini power symbol, right? So it's like, it goes along the chakras, and we become a Trishul, right? When we're, yeah, yes, it crosses at the heart.
Yes.
Right. And of course, it
Yeah.
represents to us the Christian Trinity as well. You know, there's
Right. And I'm thinking about the Minoan snake goddess with her arms up like this, right? Holding the snake.
right. Okay, I do know a little about her, but
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So I know you know these Western mythology. So when you turn it upside down, then it's grounding. So the
Yeah.
inverted Trishul grounds us. And still we have the soul line, the awakened soul line, or the Shushumna that we talk about in Reiki. And then this becomes
Yes.
the Vajra. So it's both an awakening and a receiving of divine from above and a connecting into earth below. We have a beautiful guided meditation on this one, the Vajra
Wow.
Trishul. Yeah,
So, so both the practitioners, the givers of Reiki, and also sometimes the receivers, those receiving can see these symbols. We'll see these
yeah.
symbols.
So typically, I mean, typically it's the givers that see these symbols or invoke them, or the symbols show up for them so they know what to use with the client. And then we're not necessarily showing the symbols to the client, right? They're what we're using, but it's interesting how often a client will describe something that is just like it. Yeah. So just one more of this. So then this way with, so, you know, the kind of the opposite, right, of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we call this the vehicle of protection. And so when we need protection, we surround ourselves.
Oh, great. Wow, this is really cool.
Yeah, so you can see how all our symbols kind of morph together.
Yes.
So, you know, versus, you know, the way it was taught anyway, I don't know how Asui really experienced his symbols, right? But the
Right.
way that it was taught, it was like they were static, you know, but no, you know, this is Mahashakti. They're dynamic.
Right. Right. Oh, this is so wonderful. I think this might be a good time for you to lead us through the four-part
Oh,
breath
I would love to.
exercise.
I would
I'm
love
going to, before we do that, I'm going to put you on speaker. So you're the one that's
to. Okay. So
showing during this moment.
So before I do, I want you to, you know, everybody take a look at this one again, the Vajra Trishul, because in some ways, this breath, the breath that I'm going to teach you, this pranayama,
Hmm.
is this. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
And what I'm going to have you do is picture your third eye, which is in the center of the skull. It's not right here. It's inside. And then picture your root chakra, which is in the area of the perineum, but again, slightly
Okay.
internal. Okay, so you're going to imagine this line going between those 2 points. So it just helps to know that a little bit
Yes.
in advance. Okay,
Okay.
I need to sit cross-legged to be in the space to do this. So this breath is, there are 4 steps to it, or 4 parts. So we call it the Kali-Ki Reiki 4-part breath. And so there are 2 inhalations and 2 exhalations. However, as I'm explaining it to you, I might say, you know, you're going to inhale from your third eye down to your root. Then I'm going to invite you to do an exhalation from your root down to the core of the earth. As I'm explaining it to you, the words of the explanation may take longer than your ability to do a long, slow breath. Don't worry about that. You know, just listen to what I'm saying, because I need to guide you through it at least twice, and then we'll sit in silence while you take yourself through it. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So you got it? All
Yep.
right.
Got
So make sure that you're in a nice, comfortable position. Spine is as straight as possible. And you might actually already try to picture that Vajra Trishul with the third eye being the place of the intersection of the top, a trident that's reaching up, and the root, the intersection of the bottom trident that is extending down. And like I said, these lines are actually infinite. So you can imagine those top 3 extending infinitely upward. On the top, the bottom three extending deep, deep down. I mean, you could imagine them extending even beyond the earth, but in this meditation, we're basically going to picture a place at about 8 inches above the crown of the head. We call that the Akasha chakra. And then the third eye, then the root chakra at the perineum. And then you're going to get an image of the core of the earth. You know, the core of the earth is molten. So it's molten fire, really. And it's purifying. Okay? So this is just a basic introduction. So now I'm going to guide you through it now that you know those points that we're going to be focusing on. So just breathing naturally. Bring your attention to that third eye in the center of the skull. Just notice what you see there. It's so interesting, right? Right where we're bringing our attention, we know there's a brain surrounding it, but that's not what we see. You may see darkness, you may see color. Interestingly, we close our eyes and there's still light. And now imagine a long tube of light that extends between the third eye and the root chakra. Along that, other chakras light up. So now going back to the third eye, first breath. Inhale down that tube, that soul line, past all the chakras to the root, and then pause. And now imagine at the core of the earth, Mother Gaia is present. And she takes a deep inhalation, and as she inhales, you exhale. And that soul line goes through all the layers of earth, the ground, the waters, the roots, the rocks, the crystalline structures, deep, 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 all the way to the core. You pause here again. Once again, you may need to take more breaths than I'm telling you right now. This is the second breath, it's the exhalation, down to the core. And here, everything is transformed. Everything is purified. Everything is cleansed. Once it's cleansed, it's like she exhales, and that propels you to inhale back up through all her layers, through her body, up through your own body, through your own chakras, to right above the crown at the Akasha. And again, there's a pause. And then you can feel the descent of grace showering down from the heavens, if you will, meeting that place at your Akasha chakra about 8 inches above the crown. And as you take the final exhalation, all that light of grace washes around your aura, cascades around your aura about 6 or 8 inches on all sides of you, and cleanses and purifies your energy field. Okay, that was it. Now we're going to do it again much more quickly so you can really do the breath with it. So bring the attention to the third eye. Inhale down the soul line to the base of the spine. Wait until you feel her inhaling, and then you exhale through her layers down to the core, where everything is purified. She exhales, and you take one long inhalation up through her body, up through your body, to Akasha above. Just a slight pause, feel grace descending, and you exhale, and there's a cascading and washing clean of your aura. Once again, you bring the attention to the third eye. You inhale down to the root. Exhale to core of earth. Inhale back up through earth, through body to Akasha above. Exhale and wash yourself in grace. Once again, attention at third eye. Inhale down to root. Exhale to core of earth. Inhale back up all the way to Akasha. Exhale and everything is washed clean. Now do this on your own, just one more time. When you're complete, come back into your natural breath. And when you do feel ready to open your eyes, please do it very slowly and gradually so that whatever you experienced internally, you bring back with you into your outer perception.
Thank you. I do feel this like tingly lightness, this lightness of being.
Great. Yeah. So we do this because it cleanses, it purifies, it grounds us, it connects us with Mother Earth, right?
Yeah.
And then we can, whatever needed to be released gets released to her molten core, where she uses it as fuel. You know, we're not releasing stuff right into Earth. We don't need to give Earth any of our bad stuff. She's got enough. And then that purified energy rises up. It connects with limitless love, really.
Yes.
And then it just showers down and cleanses our aura.
It's such a beautiful and simple, guided visualization through those different spheres. I kept having this image also of the world tree in a lot of these mythological traditions, right? That are linking all of those spheres.
Yes. And the tree with the roots above and the limbs below, and
Oh,
it's definitely this Vajra Trishul.
Yes. Oh my goodness, what a pleasure. Well, we still have a few more questions, but we're closing in here on time. I wonder, I guess the last question that I want to ask before we close this down is maybe more of a reflection on the weaving metaphor that you woven through your book. And, I was thinking, I'm very aware of the fact, and many of us are, that there are many weaving goddesses and traditions, and weaving is something that's been associated with women and women's work, not just in mythologies and traditions, but really, like, this is traditionally how it's been done. And the way that you describe this weaving, especially at the cosmic level, I was able to understand for the first time why weaving is associated with the feminine mythologically. Wow. Not just with our occupation,
right.
But as a feminine symbol. So I want to thank you for that. And I don't know if you have something else you'd like to share about weaving as a feminine symbol. I'd be happy to hear it.
I mean, it's all of that, and I'd like to know more about what your experience was, actually, Annalise. But let me say, the image of spider, which of course some people are afraid of spiders, and I'm sure because you're a biologist, are you? Okay.
I'm arachnophobic. Right. I feel really bad too.
Oh dear. Yes. But, even arachnophobic, right? Arachna, the name of the spider, right? Arachne was one of the goddesses, or actually she was a human, I think, who wove but the spider is part of I think it's the Hopi and the Pueblo traditions. Grandmother spider, the cosmic weaver. And then in the Hindu tradition, which I'm a little more familiar of, again, the Divine Mother is likened to a spider. And the cool thing about it, even, sorry if you have the phobia, but it's like, it's out of her own body that the thread comes. right? That's where it comes from. The silk comes from her own body. And by the way, for the most part, it's only the female spiders that weave webs.
Oh, interesting.
The males have other jobs. And so it's out of her own body that the whole cosmic web of the universe is created. And
Right.
it's back into her that it can dissolve.
Right. And I think this is why in the Greek tradition, you have the three fates, measuring.
Again, too. Yeah.
They play their parts. Okay. Just for the sake of time, I would like to close us here, if that's okay with you. And if anyone else wants to continue the conversation, I have a few more questions for Rajashree, and I will have them on the Patreon account. So you have to become a Patreon member to see the bonus questions. This has been really sweet for me to be in conversation with you. I mentioned to you in an email yesterday that I had an experience when I started reading your book yesterday. It was almost like a transmission. I could feel like this light, effervescent energy coursing through my body the moment I started reading it. So I knew that there was something special in this text in your work for me. And I'm sure other people will feel that too. And hopefully even today in our conversation, something awakened in them.
That would be perfect. That's what we want, right? This is how she speaks. She speaks through us.
Right.
And when we speak with one another in this way, and that energy is transmitted, we talk about in Kali-Ki Reiki, a healing for one is a healing for all. And we truly mean that, because when our vibration is transformed in any way, it affects everyone and everything around us.
Yes. Thank you. Well, to everybody at home, again, this is just a reminder to like this video, leave a comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to ask Rajashree to just give us one more explanation of where people can learn more about you and your work.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so the website is The Wisdom School. So we are the Wisdom School, but you have to write in thewisdomschool.us. And the .us is important. Otherwise, there are some wisdom schools in India that are schools for children, so you'll go there. And on the website, we have all the information. You can sign up for our newsletter to know about our weekly activities and things like that. I do lead we have three online satsangs every week that anyone is welcome to join free of charge. And then we have multiple classes and various workshops. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Great. And I will leave all of those links in the YouTube text box. So it'll be super easy for people to find you and the link to your book as well.
Okay.
Oh, and I want to thank Sacred Stories. I meant to thank your publisher as well. So thank you, Sacred Stories, for sharing Rajashree with me and your book and making this connection. So, all right, everybody, until next time, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time. Ciao.